This video is for Math 1001 Quantitative Reasoning. It covers topics from Unit 1, specifically slope, which can also be found in Section 6.3 of the ebook. We'll start with a definition. The slope of a line, which we denote by a lowercase m, is m equals, we can think about it in words, it is the change in y over the change in x. Often we think of this as the rise over the run. We can use shorthand and use a capital delta, that's a Greek letter, capital delta, change, which means change in y over change in x. And specifically, if you already know your points, you can say this is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And this is if your points are given as x1, y1, and x2, y2. But I think it's probably the easiest to remember these two. It's your rise over your run, or your change in y over your change in x. So let's look at these examples here. Example 1 says, find the slope of the roads below. Let's look at road A first. We see that road A is pretty steep, especially compared to road B. Just an intuitive idea of slope is this should have a larger slope. It's steeper than this one. But let's find their exact slope. So let's remember that our slope is our change in y over change in x. Remember that triangle is a capital delta. Change in y over change in x. My change in y is my vertical distance, that rise, so 30, over my change in x is this horizontal distance, 50. So we can simplify that to 3/5 or 0.6. Okay. For road B, we'll do the same thing. It is our change in y over change in x. Our change in y, the rise, is 10 feet. And our change in x is the same as last time. It's 50 feet. So we've gone the same horizontal distance for each situation, but this one has more of a vertical distance compared to road B. Road A has more vertical distance. So what do we get? 10 feet over 50 feet, that's 1/5, or we can change that to 0.2. So as we compare the slopes, road A has a slope of 0.6, and road B has a slope of 0.2. So what you can think about is road A is steeper than road B. Let's look at another example. Now we're given coordinates on a graph, and we need to find the slope between 2 points. So let's first find the slope of the line that would pass through the points A and C. So A and C, if we connect them, let's get a line here to connect A and C. We want to find the slope of that line. So this one is for part A. It would help to know what these 2 points are. It looks like A is the coordinate -4, 2. We went back 4 and up 2. To get to point C, it looks like we're at 3, 4. We went over 3 and up 4. So we have the points -4, 2 and 3, 4. So we'll find our slope, which remember is your change in y over your change in x, your vertical change over your horizontal change. We can get our vertical change by seeing how much our y has changed. So I'm going to subtract the y's. Now, when you do this, it doesn't matter which order you subtract. You can take this y and subtract that one, or you can take this y and subtract that one. What matters is that when you decide to do your change in x, you subtract in the same direction. So if I choose to do 4 minus 2, I'm forced to do 3 minus negative 4. I have to do them both in the same order. So I'll choose 4 minus 2. So I'm going this direction, and I'll draw that just to help me remember. So there's my change in y. My change in x then must be 3 minus negative 4. I have to go the same direction. So I get 2 over 3 minus negative 4 will be plus positive 4, so 7. So my slope here is 2/7. For part B, I'm asked to find the slope between points A and points B. So we can kind of think about that green line represents question B. We want to find the slope of that line. Just a couple comments before we do that. It looks a lot steeper than the other one, so I'm expecting a larger number. And also, it's going a different direction. Notice it's falling, and this one was rising. This one rising had a positive slope. Since this one is falling, I'll expect a negative answer. So let's work on that. Looks like I also need to figure out what point B is. It is where? -1, -4. So my 2 points are -4, 2, that's point A, and -1, -4. So again, my slope is my change in y over my change in x. So I'll go the same, we'll go the opposite direction this time. We'll move this way. Remember, it doesn't matter which way you subtract as long as you subtract the same way for your change in y and your change in x. So my change in y is 2 minus -4, and my change in x is -4 minus -1. Notice I went 2 minus -4, -4 minus -1. This will be plus a positive, so that'll be a 6 on top. We'll change that to plus a positive. We'll have a -3 on the bottom, and we'll get -2 as our slope. A couple things to notice. We did expect a negative because this green line is falling, so that makes sense. That checks out. We also decided this was steeper than our line before, so we were expecting our second answer to be a bigger number. Now, we ignore the negative sign. I know that -2 is actually less than 2/7, but if we just ignore the negative sign and look at the magnitude instead of the sign, 2 is a larger number than 2/7, so that checks out as well. All right, and one more. What if we're not given the picture? We just asked to find the slope of the line passing through 2 points. We'll set up our m, again, is our change in y over our change in x. And I'll go this direction this time. Again, it doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. So change in y would be -1 minus 4. Change in x would be 3 minus 0. I'll get a -5 on top. I think that's plus a negative, so -5 over 3. So my slope is -5/3.